Okay, and we are back with another Spiral Abyss clear. I waited to do the voice over for this until after the preview event, for what is it, 3.2? Yeah, 3.2, so that I would have something to talk about. This is just me checking to clear out all my things for later, but anyway, not important. Yeah, so now with the preview done, we can talk about Nahida's kit, at least some of it. So, yay! And the blessing is just more, elemental and physical resistance reduction when an enemy gets hit by a dendrocore. There's a lot of dendrocore blessings. It's a little ridiculous, but anyway. So, Nahida, we finally get her kit. Officially. Yay! Supposedly, from what I understand, she's supposed to be a support, but, just looking at the way her kit works without full understanding, because they didn't mention what her passives are, but just so she does her element. So let's start this a little bit differently. Normal attacks look cool. The jumping bursts on the ground look cool, and it actually solves an issue that I saw with her design when she first appeared on the screen, which was that I thought her arms were a little short. So I did actually kind of wonder how it would look with her swinging her arms around to cast spells, for lack of a better term. But the jumping thing fixes that issue, so sweet. Her elemental skill, the vision, or the viewfinder thing, reminds me of that event. I think it was the phase trials, where you took a photograph and exposed the weak points, and I think that's what it was called, was phase trials. And if so, I kind of think it's cool that they took inspiration from an event that we had to design her skills. My guess is that either they already had the idea and they just wanted to see what it was working out, or how it worked out, or I'm completely insane and they had it all planned out at the beginning and it's coincidental completely. But, so she does little viewfinder things, and she can target multiple people by swinging it around and just marking them as it passes them, and links them and does more damage to them, which is interesting. And then, of course, her elemental burst creates the giant, and I do mean giant, dome that increases her elemental, or that alters, not increases, alters her elemental skills. The Trikarma Purification, which is the bonus damage her elemental skill creates on marked enemies. So, how it works, from what I understand, is that if you have a Pyro character, the Trikarma Purification damage will be increased. If you have an Electro character, this is in the party, then the intervals at which Trikarma can be procced will increase. So let's say that you can only proc Trikarma once every 2 seconds, for example. Guessing by saying that the intervals will increase, that means that you could proc it supposedly once every 1.5 seconds instead. I'm just off the top of my head guessing numbers. I have no idea what the numbers are. And then if you have a Hydro character, it increases the duration of the elemental burst, so you can have the effect. You can have it on the field longer, basically. We don't know how long it lasts as is, so that could be really good, it could be really bad, we don't know. But and then of course, if you have more than one of one of those elements. So you had 2 pyro or 2 electro or 2 hydro or something, then the subsequent effect would be increased. So you'd do more damage with the tri-karma thing, or it would happen more often, or the duration of the elemental burst would last much longer. Which is interesting. It didn't mention her elemental burst doing any damage, which if it doesn't do any damage, is even more interesting, because I think it's the first elemental burst that does no damage at all. So that's kind of cool. It's completely buff. It would be a completely buff based. Which, I kind of like that. I went up in the air and just floated around and down. Anywho, so she is supposedly supposed to be a support, but her burst augments her damage and the amount of damage she can do, and it makes me wonder if her support if she's a support in the same way that Sakura from Naruto or Katara from Avatar: The Last Airbender are healers. And yes, they are healers. They do the healing, but they also have a right hook that could level a mountaintop. So I'm just wondering if, yes, she's a support. She is a very powerful support. She helps you out a whole lot. But her support is to literally blow shit up. Which is, she is an Archon, so that's kind of cool. I wish they had mentioned what her passives were. That would have been interesting to see. But, you can't get everything. But I like her general kit so far. The Viewfinder thing is really interesting. I like, just aesthetically, I like it. And then, of course, they also revealed that we get Lila, who is the sword cryo character, which I think that's the second sword cryo. Yeah, it's her and Chi-Chi. And I don't know, Layla looks interesting for a 4-star. She's got the floating mobile as her elemental burst, and then the shield that shoots stars as her elemental skill, and I'm guessing that she is also supposed to be support, and she could probably do a pretty good job in a freeze comp. Depends on how quickly you can get those stars going. So that'll be interesting. But yay, we have 3.2 coming out in, 9 days. So I'm looking forward to that. And I was right, of course. My estimation was right. There is a new boss. Scaramouche will be on the mech. Oh boy, that's gonna... Did you see how big that thing was? Like, what the hell? How that... I understand that the Traveler is, super awesome and kinda cool, but the fact that he can jump that high is ridiculous. Like, that thing is freaking huge.
Time for takeoff.
I do wonder why the mech is a thing. Like, why Skara needed the mech to become a god. Like, So, Skara was originally created to hold A's Gnosis. But A decided that he was too fragile because he cried in his sleep. Interesting logic, but okay, whatever. A, you're not exactly known for being, you don't exactly have the best track record with common sense. But moving along, so she decided instead to seal away his divine powers and leave him to wander along on his own. Right. We know this. But The fact that he is capable, that he was created to hold her gnosis, implies that the gnosis can go into him in some fashion. Like, we don't know too much about how gnosises work, or gnosises, I'm not sure which one it is. But, so the gods have them within them, as we know, and they can be extracted, again, as we know. But we don't know how that works with normal, or other people. Not just gods, but, like, let's say, Miko, for example. From what we know, she didn't keep the gnosis inside of her. She had it physically out. And we also know that Piero, from that trailer thing about La Signora's funeral, kept the gnosis out on the chessboard and used them as pieces. So we don't know if they can just easily go into other people or not, so to speak. That said, if Scaramouche was created to be a receptacle for A's gnosis, it would stand to reason that she made him with that intent, made him so that he could accept the gnosis in some form or fashion, whether it goes into him or he had like her or Venti, like into him via hokey pokey magic, or maybe he had like some sort of receptacle built into his infrastructure, his like schematics or anything whatnot. So it would stand to reason that the gnosis is supposed to go into him in some way. So that makes me wonder, why does he need the giant robot? Like, what does the giant robot provide him exactly? Because he shouldn't need it, right? I mean, he's supposed to be a receptacle for a gnosis. Why does he need a robot? What does the robot do? Just make him look big? Isn't he supposed to just be able to get the divine power just by being himself and having the gnosis? I mean, that would make the most sense, wouldn't it? So, like, what's the robot for exactly? So, I don't know. We're gonna have to see, and we're gonna have to wait until Sumeru comes out for the answer to that. But I do want to know what the hell is the robot for. That was a cool way to end that, by the way. Just lightning bolt slam. Anyway, so looking forward to that. We didn't see what's his name, Kava, in the preview, which is disappointing because I know that I and a lot of people wanted to see him. We've heard about him. He's supposed to be Al-Haytham's roommate, and a lot of people thought, we'd see him in the trailer, or we'd probably see him in 3.2, and we still could see him in 3.2, but we didn't see him in the trailer, which was disappointing. So, well, one way or the other, we'll see him eventually. Supposedly, well, never mind. I want to see, this is the guy who designed, from the voice lines we know that he designed the palace, Al-Khazadi, I think that's how it's pronounced. It's the palace that Dory owns. So, a lot of people want to see him and see what he looks like, and also, even outside of that, see his interactions with Al-Haytham, because apparently they have a very contentious relationship, despite the fact that they live together, and Al-Haytham, at the very least, is good enough to let him stay with him. Now, it's Al-Haytham. He may have his own reasons for doing that that are not just purely altruistic, but who knows? It should be an interesting thing. This is all we've got in our little tidbits and stories and whatnot, and I kind of want to know what Kappa's like. But I am looking forward to seeing obviously I'm looking forward to using Kusanali. The way her kit works, she's definitely going to shine with quickening teams, because so what they said was that her Trikarma purification procs every time you proc an elemental reaction, and since aggravate proc counts as an elemental reaction, that would mean that you would have, I don't know, like whatever the duration of quicken is. I think it's roughly like 4 to 8 seconds to proc it, and then every time you proc it, you would have every time you proc and aggravate, you would have the however long you would have the chance, or the I'm not explaining this well. When you proc aggravate, you would proc Trikarma purification, and then it would go on cooldown, and then once the cooldown is over, depending on how long that is, you would probably proc it again. And in procking Trikarma, you would apply Dendro. So then the next time you use Electro, you would proc it. You would, of course, proc a new quicken. So it would just be a continuous quicken cycle until you have to reapply the elemental skill, the Nahida's elemental skill. But still, it would basically be continuous. So if you had her and A on a team, for example, it would just be quicken all day long, which is cool, which is nice. So she's definitely going to work out well for quicken teams, and I'm curious how she will work for Dendro core teams, because I would hope that you wouldn't have. It depends on how much a Dendro core, a bloom reaction removes from the elemental gauge. That's not really a proper example. So you put Dendro, you apply Dendro, you use a Dendro attack. Let's say you're playing a team that's bloom based. So for me, that would be Nahida and I don't know, Ayato. Let's say Ayato, because he is... Yeah, let's go with Ayato. So, you start with Nahida, you use her elemental skill, you apply the mark, and then you switch to Ayato and you use his elemental skill, which does hydro damage, and then procs bloom. And then you start slashing. And then that, of course, procs more blooms. The question I have is, how much will the hydro application remove from the Dendro gauge? So, like, can you get 2 blooms from one application of Dendro? Or can you only get 1? So let's say that you got the Dendro little icon on there, and then you apply Hydro. Will it immediately go away, or will it linger long enough for you to do another application of Hydro to cause another bloom? So then you end up with 2 blooms. And that said, what is the duration, or what is the interval of the Trikarma purification, because you need that to apply more Dendro, otherwise you won't be able to apply more blooms. So it all depends. is you need because you only proc the Trikarma from elemental reactions, so you would need for the dendro thing to come out pretty regularly, otherwise you'll use up all of the dendro application before you can proc it again. And which means that if you were using, for example, Ayato, you would only be able to get, like, if it wasn't fast enough, you'd only be able to get 2 blooms out from all of his slashes, in which case it's really not worth it. Because he's got the full, what is it, like 50, if you go full time, it's like 15 slashes, and only the initial burst, and then the first slash would both cause would both cause bloom, and then you would have to wait for the dendro core to rupture, in which case you would have to wait, what is that, like 4 seconds before you can have dendro applied again. And so it would just take a while and you wouldn't get as much, whereas if he could apply more than 2 off the bat, that would be greater, because then basically it just depends on how fast the intervals are and how much of the gauge, the elemental gauge, hydro removes to cause bloom. So basically there's a lot more up in the air with bloom comps than there are with quicken comps, is what I'm trying to get at in this long ass explanation that's helping nobody. And then, of course, burning comps are, well, I mean, it's potentially possible that she could be good for a burning comp, but I don't know. It's not likely, because I don't think if each individual tick of burning counted as an elemental reaction, then she would have potential to be really good in a burning comp, because then it would it would have a constant application of burning, like, until the skill wore off. But I don't think each tick of burning counts as an elemental reaction, because what would happen is you would apply dendro, apply pyro, tick, 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 or you'd apply dendro, apply pyro, that would cause an elemental reaction, which would apply dendro again, tick, 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 and then that would subsequently cause another burning reaction to happen right then, and then that would start ticking down. And then if each tick counted as a elemental reaction, then assuming the intervals in which a trikarma purification could occur was short enough, you could technically cause another one before burning went out, and then that would apply dendro, and then the next tick of burning would be pyro, which would cause burning to start all over again. If that makes it, basically just creates a sort of like an endless cycle. But as I said, this entirely is based on each individual tick of burning counting as an elemental reaction, which I don't think they are. So what could end up happening is that she's not actually good for burning, in which case, bleh, who cares? Burning is burning and nobody likes it. I don't know, I found Tainari to be decent with burning, but honestly, the time in which the application of burning is the moments in which I think I screw this up and I leave it in. Yeah, I do screw this up. I should have taken it out, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Because I let this guy get off his heal, so I end up having to do floor or part 1 again because I don't have enough time. Anyway, so burning has on occasion its place, but it is just that the occasion in which you would use it is very, very limited, which is a little disappointing, honestly. But what can you do? I will say, though, that I think the interesting thing about Nahida is that it said elemental reaction, not... And also I let them go invisible, which did not help. It said elemental reaction, not dendro reaction. So that means that in certain comps she could just be bonus damage. So you could put her in a comp and then have, let's say you wanted to do more damage, so you have a pyro character, and then you put 2 geo characters. So in this whatever fictional scenario, you have, I don't know, Diluc, Nahida, Zhongli, and Albedo. Let's say you have that. Since it says any this is another mistake, I attacked the Earth guy instead of the Archer. The Earth guy will follow, the Archer will stay put. I should have attacked the Archer instead of the Earth guy. So remember, everyone, for future reference, when attacking things of 2, always go for the ranged enemy over the melee, because the melee will move towards you, the ranged will stay put and fire. Yeah, I know, shocking, right? Anyway, so in our scenario, you have Diluc, Nahida, Zhongli, and Albedo. So you do all of Nahida's things. You put the Tri-Karma, or you put the mark on them. You summon the giant dome, and then you set up your Geo characters. So you've got Zhongli pillars and Albedo's flower, and then you just go ham with Diluc. Now, ignoring burning damage. Ignore burning damage, although it will be present in this scenario. Ignore the burning damage for now. Every time what you would end up doing is what it would end up happening is that Tri-Karma Purification would proc based off of not the burning damage, not the burning reaction necessarily, but the crystallize, like the procs of crystallization. So whenever the Geo skills, the pillar or the flower, create a pyro crystal, that would, assuming it's off cooldown, proc Tri-Karma Purification, which opens up a whole host of extra damage situations, because let's say a different scenario. You have Nahida, you have Diluc again, you have Kokomi, you have Kokomi, and you have Yelan, let's say. What you could end up doing is having extra, you'd have a, vaporized team, and then you'd have extra dendro damage on top of it, because you'd have all the pops of Tri-Karma, because each of them would proc off the vaporize, not the burning, but the vaporize, which would happen more often, presumably. So that is, of course, a way to keep, technically that's a way of keeping burning going for quite a long time. So you could also have, let's say you have the Archon, a full 4 Archon team. You have Nahida, A, Venti, Zhongli. You would be getting Tri-Karma Purification procs, or potential procs, based on cooldown, but you would get potential Trikarma Purification procs off of Quicken, Aggravate, Swirl, Catalyze. That's pretty awesome. That's just a lot of options. So, yeah, she's a support in that she gives you a vast amount of options that you can use to do damage. She gives you extra damage based off a lot of options, which concludes, again, my personal opinion that Dendro, of all the elements, is the element of variety or choice. So, there's this YouTuber I watch who talks about Genshin, and he categorized all of the elements. So, like, Pyro is the element of power, Electro is the element of consistency, Dendro is Anemo is control, Geo is substance, Cryo is... I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll have to remember. Anyway, Geo was substance. I think I said that. Hydro was change. What was Cryo? I can't remember. But anyway, he categorized all the elements basically, and I agreed with all of them. They were very well. It was very well done. But in my and then taking into that, I personally would put Dendro under the umbrella term of choice or variety, interchangeable, whichever one you want, because it gives you options. It allows you to have, or coverage, if you want another word for it. It lets you cover all sorts of bases just by existing. You can do 1,000 cuts with quicken damage. You can do death by 1,000 cuts with quicken damage. You can quicken damage. You can do big bursts of AoE with burgeon damage. You can do targeted blasts against very fast targets, or just targets in general, with hyper bloom damage. You can slowly whittle down the HP over time with burning damage, and then now with Nahida you can do all those things while providing bonus. You can also provide bonus damage on top of any other type of comp you want. So if you wanted to try out a new comp and you weren't so quite sure, oops, I hit my microphone. You weren't quite sure of the damage, you could bring Nahida and just buff all the damage. You could have extra damage, and it's so much bigger and so much grander. Also, look at this. Oh, not this. But, not this. Close, though. Some of the hits I get with Ayaka are impressive as hell, in my opinion. Not this one yet. Alright, let's see if I can do it right here. So we have Zhongli Shield, Shenhe E, bonus damage from that, and let's see, so 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, or 20,000, I'm sorry, 20,000, 20,000, 20,000, 20,000. Those are from auto attacks. Of her auto attacks are doing 20,000 damage. That is, in my opinion, pretty impressive. And of course, unfortunately, it only lasts a short amount of time because it's part of the damage is based on Shinha's Icy Quills, which only go for like 5 or 6 hits, give or take. So, that's unfortunate. But still, 20 damage, or 20,000, 20,000, 20,000, 20,000, like 3 or 4 or 5 or so hits of 20,000 is still pretty good, in my opinion. Anyway. So, and another setup. So, it's not as big a problem anymore, but I know that when they first came out, people were having issues with, what are they called? The Abyss Herald. So, what you can do now is, when the Abyss Herald goes into its water shield phase, if you have Nahida on the team, and you have a cryo character on the team, you could quite literally keep it permanently frozen while constantly proccing Trikarma purifications, which, depending on how things work, may proc Dendro Blooms, so that would just help you blast through that goddamn thing's shield so much faster while keeping it in place. Like, that is awesome and so helpful, because that thing is the mobility on that on those freaking things, even nowadays, when I can still get through it pretty quickly, it's still annoying. Admittedly, we haven't had an Abyss Herald in like forever in Spiral Abyss, but they could always come back. So, I'm gushing a little bit on Nahida, which is par for the course. I mean, my account is called Archon Warrior. I like the Archons. They have usually some of the strongest kits. It's questionable which one is stronger, Venti or Kazuha for Anemo, because of, I don't know, consistency with Kazuha. But, for the most part, even if Kazuha is the stronger of the two, Venti would be second strongest. A is the strongest Electro character. Zhongli is the strongest Geo character. Nahida, from what we can, admittedly, we only have 2 other Dendro characters, but she is shaping up to be the strongest Dendro character, period. So, Archons have the coolest kits, strongest kits, most interesting backstories, or at least mostly some of the most interesting backstories. I'll admit that some of the other characters really do have good backstories. Zhao, for example. Please tell me that's not the only one I can think of that has a... Albedo. I'm looking at I have a picture of some of the characters now. Albedo has a good backstory. Miko has a good backstory. Child has a good backstory. I'm assuming Skara, from what we know, if he becomes playable, will have a good backstory. So, we have tidbits of his backstory as it is already, so I can feel safe in saying that. So they're not the only ones, but they have really good backstories, mostly because they've just been around forever. Like, Zhongli's like 6,000 years old, Venti's about 1,000, A's about 1,000, so on and so forth. Nahida's only 500, admittedly, but and she's spent most of her life stuck in a tower, so she's the Rapunzel of Archons. But that said, it's still an interesting backstory because it's the first time we have an Archon actively fought against by its people, and B, she wasn't inactive in all that time while she was in the tower. She was helping the people of Sumeru, so I'm interested in reading her backstory and some of the things that she's done with her mental link to the people of Sumeru. Anyway, Archons are cool. Archons are awesome. And I've talked my way through the entire Spiral Abyss. Woohoo! Something to talk about, finally. Something new to talk about, anyway. I do wish that I had been getting better luck with the... So we have, anyway, Hourglass, Green Hourglass, Duality Feather, or Duality Flower, Green Feather, Green Hourglass again. And if I remember correctly, only one of them was worth anything. I've been getting really bad luck with Dendro with these new artifacts. Yeah, that one was shit. That's HP defense. That one's double HP. That one, I think, was the potential. And then this one was, no, double HP, I can see it. So that one wasn't helpful either. Unless I give it to, like, K does it or something, anyway. So I've been getting really bad luck with the new artifacts, like double HP or HP in defense. It's horrible. But anyway, if you like this discussion or like my tips on this, please like and subscribe. Have a good rest of your day. Bye!